So if you've got kids in your life, you have almost certainly heard the sounds or seen the strange visuals. The Skibidi phenomenon has just completely taken over short-form video, and it's left a lot of us adults kind of scratching our heads. In this explainer, we're going to break down what is really going on. This is the big question, right? It just seems so nonsensical, so chaotic, and honestly, a little bizarre. But that intense fascination kids have with this content, it is not random. No way. There are very specific reasons behind this obsession, and we're about to dive into them. That's right. The appeal of Skibidi is no accident. It's actually a perfect combination of internal factors, what's happening inside a child's developing brain, and external factors, like the very technology they're using to watch it. To really get this, you have to look at two key forces. First, there's the pull of a child's unique psychological wiring, and then there's the push from the incredibly powerful digital world they live in. When you put those two together, you get a nearly irresistible force. Okay, first, let's talk about those internal drivers. To understand why kids are just glued to the screen, we have to understand how their brains are actually wired to see the world. And believe me, it is a very different process than how an adult brain works. This right here is a fundamental point. A developing brain is super sensitive, and it's actively looking for intense sensory input. It's not on the hunt for subtle plot twists or deep character development. It just wants something that grabs its attention with pure, raw energy. And Skibidi content delivers on that need perfectly. You've got this combination of fast motion, constant visual changes, and these catchy, repetitive sounds. All of that directly triggers the brain's reward system, and it releases this little hit of pleasure that just makes kids want to keep on watching. Another huge piece of the puzzle is humor. What we adults find funny often relies on logic or clever wordplay or some kind of punchline. But kids, they are masters of appreciating absurdity. For them, humor doesn't need to make sense, it just needs to be surprising. And this chart just lays out the difference so well. A child's sense of humor is all about the unexpected. Strange visuals and totally meaningless actions can be absolutely hilarious to them. Adult humor, on the other hand, usually needs a setup and some kind of logical conclusion. Well, Skibidi operates entirely in that first column. It is pure, chaotic surprise. This quote from our source material really gets to the heart of what it feels like to watch this. With its simple characters and these rapid, repetitive actions, watching Skibidi toilets is almost like watching a passive video game. The brain is engaged, it's entertained, but it doesn't have to do any heavy lifting or any deep, critical thinking. It is totally effortless stimulation. Okay, this is so important to remember. As adults, we've spent years building up this mental filter to sort information, to decide what's meaningful, what's junk, what's important, and what we can just ignore. Children simply haven't built that filter yet. So, without that sophisticated filter, what actually gets a child's attention? Well, it's the most basic sensory inputs. We're talking bright colors, loud or repetitive sounds, and constant movement. That's more than enough to capture and hold their focus, whether there's any real substance behind it or not. All right, so we've covered the pull from inside a child's brain. Now let's switch gears and look at the external push forces, these powerful, often invisible systems that are serving this content up on a platter. This is the technology side of the equation. See, the platforms where kids are finding these videos aren't just passive libraries. They are active systems, and they're designed with one main goal: to keep you watching for as long as humanly possible. And here's exactly how it works. It's a simple but an incredibly effective loop. A child watches one Skibidi video. The second it ends, the algorithm, which has already noted that interest, instantly serves up another one just like it. This creates a continuous, automated stream of content that can be really difficult for a child, who naturally has less impulse control, to break away from. But it's not all about the tech. There's also this timeless social force at work: peer pressure. For a kid, being part of the group and knowing what everyone else is talking about is a huge, huge motivator for their behavior. And this quote just sums it up perfectly. This is a totally normal and expected part of growing up and developing socially. If Skibidi is what everyone's talking about on the playground or in the lunchroom, a child is going to feel this strong social need to watch it, simply to be included and to avoid feeling left out of the loop. So when you put it all together, the internal psychology and the external environment, you start to see the bigger picture. It's not just one thing, it's this combination of factors that creates a kind of perfect storm for this type of content to thrive. This table lays it all out pretty clearly. On one side, you have the pull from the brain, that craving for high stimulation, a love for absurd humor, the easy game-like engagement, and a lack of a content filter. Then, on the other side, you have the push from the environment, those relentless algorithms, and some very powerful social pressure. And each side just makes the other one strong. And that's really the main takeaway here. The popularity of Skibidi isn't a sign that something's wrong. It's a sign that the content, whether it was by accident or by design, is perfectly tuned to the exact frequency of a child's developing mind and the architecture of the platforms they use every single day. So where does that leave us? Look, Skibidi is just the trend of the moment. The underlying forces, child psychology and algorithmic technology, they're not going anywhere. By understanding why this phenomenon took hold, we can be that much more prepared to navigate whatever comes next.